In this lecture, we will discuss knock and the design principles of the combustion chamber of CI engine. In the CI engine, liquid fuel is injected into hot air, and a physical delay occurs while the fuel is atomized, vaporized, raised in temperature, and mixed with air. Then, before flame appears, a chemical delay takes place. During the ignition delay from both physical and chemical factors, more and more fuel is being injected into the combustion chamber. Because of this accumulation of fuel, when combustion begins, it begins at a rapid rate, and the impact of pressure may cause the engine to vibrate, while pressure difference may well appear in the combustion chamber. Knock in the CI engine is characterized by sudden auto ignition of the mixture at the very beginning of the combustion process. Although since CI combustion is heterogeneous, continued auto ignition may occur at every stage of the process. Now, comparison of the combustion process for SI and CI engine shows that knock originates in both engines from the same phenomena, that is auto ignition of the fuel. In the SI engine, uncontrolled self-ignition occurs near the end of the pressure rise period, whereas in the CI engine, uncontrolled self-ignition occurs from the very beginning of the pressure rise. So as shown in the figure shown on the slide, that in the case of CI engine, detonation is occurring at the very start of the combustion process, whereas in the case of SI engine, detonation is occurring after maximum pressure. The detonation in SI engine is of homogeneous charge, causing very high rate of pressure rise and very high maximum pressure. In the CI engine, the fuel and air are imperfectly mixed, and hence the rate of pressure rise is normally lower than that in the detonating part of the charge in the SI engine. Moreover, as in the CI engine, the fuel is injected into the cylinder only at the end of compression stroke. There is no question of pre-ignition or premature ignition as in the SI engine. In the SI engine, it is relatively easy to distinguish between knocking and non-knocking operation, as the human ear finds easily the distinction. However, in the case of CI engine, the normal ignition is itself by auto ignition, and hence most CI engines have a sufficiently high rate of pressure rise per degree of crank angle to cause audible noise. When such noise becomes excessive or there is excessive vibration in the engine structure, then the engine is said to have knock. Therefore, in the CI engine, there is no definite distinction between normal and knocking combustion. The maximum rate of pressure rise in the CI engine may reach as high as 10 bar per crank degree angle. Now we will compare the requirement of certain factors which tend to reduce detonation or knocking in SI and CI engine. Self-ignition temperature of the fuel required is high in the case of SI engine, whereas in the case of CI engine, self-ignition temperature required for the fuel is low. Time lag or delay period for fuel means ignition lag that is required in SI engine is high, whereas the delay period in the case of CI engine, it should be short. The compression ratio should be low for SI engine, whereas it should be high for CI engine. Inlet temperature should be low for SI engine, whereas high for CI engine. Inlet pressure should be low for SI engine, whereas high for CI engine. Combustion chamber wall temperature should be low for SI engine, whereas high for CI engine. Speed desired for SI engine to reduce knocking should be high in SI engine, whereas low in case of CI engine. Cylinder size required to reduce detonation or knocking in SI engine is lower, whereas the cylinder size should be large for the CI engine. Now, as far as the aspect of controlling or reducing detonation or knock is concerned, then the approach adopted in the case of CI engine is just opposite to that of SI engine. The factors that tend to reduce detonation in the SI engine increase knocking in the CI engine. The detonation or knocking in the SI engine is due to simultaneous auto-ignition of the last part of the charge. And to eliminate detonation in the SI engine, we want to prevent altogether the auto-ignition of the last part of the charge, and therefore we require a long delay period as well as high self-ignition temperature of the fuel. Whereas if we want to eliminate knock in the CI engine, we would have to achieve auto-ignition as early as possible. So what is required? We require a short delay period and low self-ignition temperature of the fuel. So we can say that a good CI engine fuel is a bad SI engine fuel, and a good SI engine fuel is a bad CI engine fuel. Means diesel oil has low self-ignition temperature and short time lag, whereas petrol has high self-ignition temperature and long ignition lag. Diesel has a high cetane number ranging from 40 to 60 and low octane number about 30, whereas petrol has high octane number ranging from 80 to 90 and low cetane number that of 18. Now the delay period can be reduced by reducing the degree of turbulence, as it will reduce heat loss, but it will increase the combustion period and thus reduce torque and thermal efficiency. The delay angle is reduced by adding chemical dopes, which are also known as ignition accelerators. Example are ethyl nitrate, amyl nitrate. Basically, these chemical dopes increase the pre-flame reactions and reduce the flash point. These chemicals increase the cetane rating of the diesel fuel by auto-ignition at lower temperatures. Unfortunately, these are expensive and they contain nitrogen, so basically they increase NOx emission drastically. There would be high rate of pressure rise and high maximum pressure in the second stage, that is in the stage of uncontrolled combustion. If large amount of fuel collects in the delay period, it can be reduced by arranging the injector so that only a small amount of fuel is injected at first. But a long combustion would reduce the thermal efficiency. Now, as we know that in the case of SI engine, the fuel and air are mixed outside the combustion chamber, that is in the carburetor, whereas in the CI engine the mixing of fuel and air has to take place inside the combustion chamber when the fuel is injected near the end of compression stroke during a period of say 20 to 35 degrees of the crank angle. So we can say that the important function of CI engine combustion chamber is to provide proper mixing of fuel and air in a short time. So what is required? An organized air movement, which we call air swirl, and this air swirl is provided to produce high relative velocity between the fuel droplets and air. The fuel is injected into the combustion chamber by an injector having a single or multiple orifices. If a single orifice injector is used at the maximum delivery, the air movement should be so adjusted that whole of the air in the combustion space is swept once past the fuel jet during the process of combustion. So this involves a very high rate of air swirl. If two jets of fuel at 180 degrees apart are used, then air need to make only half a revolution during the combustion process. And for four jets, 1/4 revolution, and so on. Thus increasing the number of jets induces the intensity of air swirl needed. Now there are three basic methods of generating swirl in a CI engine combustion chamber: induction swirl, compression swirl, and combustion induced swirl. By directing the flow of air during its entry to the cylinder, known as induction swirl, this method is used in open combustion chamber. By forcing the air through a tangential passage into a separate swirl chamber during the compression stroke, known as compression swirl, this method is used in swirl chambers. By the use of initial pressure rise due to the partial combustion to create swirl turbulence, known as combustion induced swirl. This method is used in pre-combustion chambers and air cell chambers. Now in the 4-stroke engines, induction swirl can be obtained by two methods: either by suitable design of intake passages or by masking or shrouding a portion of the circumference of the inlet valve. The angle of mask may vary from 90 to 140 degree of the circumference. But however, the masking offers a disadvantage, that is, the free passage area gets restricted, so it requires some arrangement to prevent the rotation of the valve. In the 2-stroke engine, the induction swirl is created by suitable inlet port forms. The induction swirl is usually enhanced by secondary air movement, which we call squish. Now in the CI open combustion chamber design, the clearance between cylinder head and piston and top dead center position is as small as 1 to 1.5 mm. Now a squish is flow of air radially inwards toward the combustion recess by squeezing it out from between the piston and the cylinder head as they approach each other at the end of the stroke, as shown with the help of rightward diagram on the slide. The important point about the induction swirl is that if it is formed by air intake passages, it is very weak. If a masked inlet valve is used, it provides an obstruction in the passage which reduces the volumetric efficiency, and hence we cannot have too much of masking. Therefore, even with this method, the swirl generated is weak. Means in both the cases, when it is generated by the air intake passages, it is weak, and when it is generated by the masked or shrouded inlet valve, then also it is weak. So with a weak swirl, single orifice injector cannot provide the desired air fuel mixing. So what is required? So the required thing is that with the induction swirl we should have multiple orifice injector, in which number of holes are varying from 4 to 8. With multiple holes, their size becomes small, about 0.1 to 0.15 mm diameter. Now atomization of fuel oil through such fine holes require high injection pressure, and the injection pressure of the order of 150 bar to 1000 bar is developed. Now because of this high injection pressure, we get a sharp cutoff, and that avoids dribbling, which is the main cause of carbon deposits on nozzle. And second, the air velocity through the orifice passage, which helps to remove the carbon deposits formed. Open combustion chamber is defined as the one in which combustion space is essentially a single cavity with little restriction, and hence there are no differences, or you can say no large differences in pressure between different parts of the chamber during the combustion process. So on the slide it is shown that many designs of open combustion chambers are available. The first one is a shallow depth combustion chamber, usually adopted for large engines running at low speed. Due to large diameter of the cavity, the squish is negligible. The second one shows the hemispherical shape. This also provides small squish. A cylindrical chamber is better from a squish point of view because the depth to diameter ratio can be varied to give any desired squish. Now the third one shows the toroidal chamber. This form of combustion chamber derives its name after its shape. The idea behind such shape is to provide a powerful squish which imparts to air a movement similar to that of familiar smoke ring. The cone angle of the spray is 150° to 160°. Now due to powerful squish, the mass needed on inlet valve is small and there is better utilization of oxygen. The second method of generating swirl is by compression swirl, and that is done with the help of swirl chamber. A swirl chamber is a divided chamber. A divided combustion chamber is defined as the one in which combustion space is divided into two or more distinct compartments between which there are restrictions or throats small enough so that considerable pressure differences occur between them during the combustion process. Now here we have shown the swirl chamber, which is popularly known as Ricardo Comet Mark II. It consists of a spherical shaped swirl chamber separated from the engine cylinder, and into this chamber maximum possible air is transferred during the compression stroke. The chamber is connected to the cylinder by a throat or a passage which enters the chamber in a tangential direction, so that the air on flowing into the chamber is given a strong rotary movement in it. This swirl is maximum at about 15° before top dead center, that is close to the time of injection. The fuel gets injected into the swirl chamber and the ignition and the bulk of the combustion takes place. The products of combustion pass back through the same throat of passage at a still higher velocity. This causes considerable loss of heat to the walls of passage, particularly because at this time the temperature and the pressure of the products of combustion is maximum. This loss of heat is reduced by employing a heat insulated member. While running, it attains a temperature of 450°C to 700°C, and this is higher than the normal compression temperature but much below the combustion temperature. So it basically serves as thermal regenerator, receiving heat during the combustion and expansion and returning heat to the air during compression stroke. With a insulated member, the heat to the surface of the combustion chamber is greater than with the induction swirl having direct injection into an open chamber. In compression swirl, a very strong swirl which increases with speed is generated. The strong swirl enables a single hole nozzle, generally of Pintle type, to be used. Now the improved design of Ricardo Comet Mark II is Mark III, which is shown on the slide. In this design, about half of the clearance volume is formed by the swirl chamber, and the rest comprises of circular cavities in the piston that are communicating with the throat. The whole of the fuel is delivered into the swirl chamber, and when ignition takes place, the increase in pressure in the swirl chamber causes a rush of hot gases and partially burnt fuel outwards into the two shallow depressions. A rotating movement is thereby set in the depressions, and the air contained in them is fed into the gases coming out of the swirl chamber, and thus helps in completing the combustion. So in this design, both compression swirl and combustion induced swirl are used. The advantage of Mark III over Mark II are that less work is done in transferring the air from the cylinder to the swirl chamber and back, as only about half the air is transferred. In Mark II, there is a thin layer of air between the piston and the cylinder head, which is not readily available to the fuel, but in this design, due to shallow depressions, the air in the thin layer is reduced. The air in the shallow depression is embraced by the fuel and is utilized. So this increases brake effective pressure. The high excess air that is there in induction swirl allows lower average combustion chamber temperature. Now the lower average combustion chamber temperatures, along with low turbulence and low heat losses, permits engine indicator thermal efficiency to approach the ideal air cycle efficiency. Now in the open combustion chamber, the intensity of swirl is low. So consequently, the heat loss to the chamber walls is also relatively low, resulting in easier cold starting. The swirl is obtained during induction stroke, so no additional work is done in producing the swirl. Now this coupled with high indicator thermal efficiency means high brake thermal efficiency and therefore lower fuel consumption. Open chamber is generally used for large low-speed engines. In low-speed engines, injection is spread through a greater period of time, and thus ignition delay is relatively less important factor. Consequently, less costly fuels with longer ignition delay may be used. With high speeds, this type of chamber with low ignition quality fuel will tend to knock. As the swirl induced by induction is generally weak in intensity, multi-orifice nozzles with high injection pressure are required. The small nozzle openings are frequently clogged or can cause change of fuel spray pattern by carbon deposits with consequent higher maintenance cost. Small nozzle openings influences the minimum quantity of fuel that can be delivered per injection and introduces complications at light loads and under idling conditions. The use of masked valve lowers the volumetric efficiency. And moreover, in the interest of symmetry, the multiple orifice injector has to be placed near the center of the cylinder and therefore between the walls. This restricts somewhat the diameter of the walls and therefore further restricts the breathing capacity, that is volumetric efficiency. Now weak swirl necessitates the excess air, that is low air utilization. This results in lower mean effective pressure and hence large size, and therefore they are costlier engine for a given power. Now in the case of induction swirl, one can say that it is not proportional to speed, and hence efficiency is not maintained over wide range in variable speed engine. Due to strong swirl, a single orifice injector with low injection pressure is required. Low injection pressure allows the duration of the injection to be disturbed little by the length or capacity of the fuel piping or by the elasticity of fuel. The injector is generally of Pintle type, which has self-cleaning properties. So it is less prone to clogging, and maintenance difficulties are therefore reduced up to a great extent. Due to strong swirl, there is greater utilization of air. Therefore, higher mean effective pressure is attained at the clean exhaust limit. Hence, for a given power, the size of the engine is smaller and also less expensive than that of open chamber induction swirl. Now, in the swirl chamber design, the injector is located towards one side of the cylinder. Hence, there is freedom to use larger valves with a free entry, and so volumetric efficiency and mean effective pressure can be maintained up to considerably high speeds. Now, swirl chamber is having one of the important advantage, that the swirl is proportional to speed. Thus, they are suitable for variable speed operation. Now, the transfer of the air to a separate chamber makes it possible to provide a heated surface over which the air is caused to flow during its passage from the cylinder to the combustion chamber. Therefore, delay period is reduced and a fuel of low ignition quality can be used. The products of combustion will be less odorous. The swirl chamber produces smooth engine operation because the small swirl chamber absorbs the initial shock of peak pressure and saves the piston from extreme pressure variations. Disadvantages of compression swirl. Because of lower air fuel ratio, that is small amount of excess air, indicator thermal efficiency is found to be lower. Now, due to strong swirl, heat loss to the combustion chamber walls is significant. And moreover, the swirl tends to sweep away the stagnant layer of gas near the walls of combustion chamber, which act as insulator. We know that compression swirl is used in smaller engines with large S by V ratio. Larger the S by V ratio, more heat will be transferred to the cylinder walls. So all these factors contribute to a considerable heat loss, which causes trouble during starting conditions when the engine is cold. So starting in swirl chamber engine is somewhat difficult as compared to that of open chamber engines. The work done during compression is significantly higher and there corresponding loss during expansion also, resulting lower mechanical efficiency. The construction of cylinder is more expensive than that in case of open chamber. Now, the significant waste of energy in the exhaust gases leads to lower life of the exhaust valve. Now, there are two important designs of combustion chambers using combustion induced swirl, the pre-combustion chamber and the air cell combustion chamber. A typical pre-combustion chamber design is shown in the figure on the slide. It basically consists of pre-combustion chamber connected to the main chamber through a number of very small holes. The pre-combustion chamber contains 20 to 30% of the cleanest volume. The fuel is injected into the pre-chamber in such a manner that bulk of it reaches the neighborhood of the orifice separating the two chambers. The combustion is initiated in the pre-chamber and the resulting pressure rise forces the flaming droplets together with some air and their combustion products to rush out at velocity through the small holes, thus both creating strong secondary turbulence and distributing them throughout the air in the main combustion chamber where the bulk of the combustion takes place. About 80% of energy is released in the main combustion chamber. Now the advantages of pre-combustion chamber are: it uses single hole pintle type of nozzle, and the initial shock of combustion is limited to pre-combustion chamber only. Low ignition quality fuels are required, as violent combustion is required in pre-chamber to force burning droplets out and create secondary turbulence. Moreover, the pre-combustion chamber has multi-fuel capability without requiring any modification in the injection system. It is because the temperature of the pre-chamber is high, somewhat around 2000 degrees Celsius, and the difference between optimum injection timing between petrol and diesel fuels is only 2 degree compared to 8 to 10 degrees in other designs. Now the disadvantages of pre-chamber is high heat losses due to high velocity and a small size of valve due to central location of pre-chamber. This is another design of combustion chamber that is related with the combustion induced swirl. In the air cell chamber, like pre-combustion chamber, there is no organized air swirl. In this design, it is having air cell in two parts, major and minor, which are separated from each other and from the main chamber by narrow orifices. The air cell contains about 10 to 15% of the clearance volume. A pintle type of nozzle is located in the main combustion space, which injects fuel across this space towards the open neck of the air cell. The process of combustion in such design is not very clear. The first ignition probably starts near the neck of the minor air cell chamber, where pressure rises sharply. This results in the outflow of air, burning gas and fuel to the main chamber, but because of the restricted passage and start of the expansion stroke, the high pressure is not transmitted to the main chamber. The outcoming gases create a strong double rotary motion in the main chamber as shown in the figure. As the combustion proceeds in the expansion stroke, pressure in the minor cell falls and the major cell also discharges its air into the main chamber. So it is clear that the bulk of the air entrapped in the air cell is utilized rather later in the stroke, resulting in reduced efficiency and power output. The advantages of air cell chamber design are: the maximum pressure in the main chamber is quite low and therefore it gives smooth running and easy starting. For easy starting, compression ratio may be enhanced by closing part of the air cell. This type of chamber is therefore most suitable for comparatively small engines of medium duty, where a relatively high fuel consumption can be tolerated. Each combustion chamber design has its own characteristics, own features, own advantages and disadvantages. Any one of the combustion chamber which may produce good results in one application may prove to be futile in other application. So a combustion chamber design must be chosen according to the requirement of particular requirement. The important factors which should be taken into consideration while designing the CI combustion chambers: high thermal efficiency, fuel requirement, that is ability to use less expensive fuel, as well as the ability of an engine for multi-fuel operation. Ease of starting, that implies heat loss to the combustion chamber wall should be less. Capacity of variable speed operation, smoothness of operation and avoidance of diesel knock, that is combustion noise should be avoided. Low exhaust emission, nozzle design, which basically refers to injection pressure maintenance problems. High volumetric efficiency, high brake mean effective pressure, which implies that engine weight per unit power should be less. Now, cold starting of CI engine has been a problem, and its ease of starting in cold is an important requirement for a CI engine design. To ensure easy cold starting, frequently compression ratios higher than necessary are used. But even then, cold starting may become difficult in extreme cold climates, or when the cylinder liner is heavily worn, or when the walls are leaky. It is therefore sometimes necessary to provide some electric aid for cold starting. We know that for ignition in CI engine we depend on high temperature and pressure of the compressed air. For the combustion to take place in short time available, the temperature must be high enough to exceed the self-ignition temperature of the fuel by a sufficient margin. Now, high pressures basically ensures intimacy of the contact of fuel particles and the air particles, and therefore rapid transfer of heat from the air to the surface of the liquid fuel. Now, at very low speeds, the engine will not start because of high heat losses to the cold walls of the cylinder during compression and greater time available for leakage past the piston rings. Engine may also not cold start at too high a speed because of too short a time available for vaporization and preparation of mixture chemically for ignition. With hand cranking, engine cannot be run at too high a speed, and therefore upper limit speed limit for cold starting is of academic interest only. The optimum speed for cold starting depends on surface volume ratio, which controls the heat loss to the cylinder walls. And also the optimum speed for cold starting depends on intensity of air swirl, and higher swirl makes the cold starting difficult due to removal of stagnant gas that is sticking to the combustion chamber walls and acting as insulator. Moreover, the speed for cold starting also depends upon the physical condition of the engine, means leakage past piston and walls, that basically reduces the temperature and pressure of the compressed air. Now, the requirements, or you can say basically challenges for cold starting, include greater air utilization, smooth running, and less smoke and air pollution. So basically what is required? There should be a compromise in the design and operation of the engine. For example, easy cold starting can be achieved by directing a finely atomized fuel jet against the air movement. For normal operation, this would cause rough running. Again, provision of excess fuel at starting would help in cold starting, but would cause excess smoke and air pollution. Now, these are some of the cold starting aids that have been used in the past. Injection of small quantity of lubricating oil or fuel oil. This basically helps out by raising the compression ratio temporarily and sealing the piston rings and walls. Provision of cartridges. These may be self-igniting or requiring lighting before insertion into the combustion chamber. Starting as petrol engines. The engine can be provided with a sparking plug and carburetor. At a starting, compression ratio is produced by providing an auxiliary chamber, and the engine is started as a petrol engine. Preheating the engine cylinder by warm water. Modifying valve timings for starting. Now we will discuss the modern starting aids of high-speed engines. Electric glow plugs, manifold heaters, injection of heaters. Electric glow plugs. These are very common with swirl type combustion chambers. Electric glow plug initiates combustion by acting as localized igniter. The advantages of electric glow plug are simplicity and reliable operation. Manifold heaters fed with fuel are widely used for starting. It consists of a small electric incandescent heater rated at about 150 watts, and it is installed in the manifold. Small amount of fuel is fed onto it. The ingoing air passing past the heater picks up heat as well as partially burnt products of combustion. The combustion is aided by the heat of air as well as chemical reactivity of the partial products of combustion. Manifold heaters are commonly used for direct injection engines. where the heater plugs cannot be fitted in the combustion chamber. Injection of ether. This method is based on the unique properties of ether. Ether has a low self-ignition temperature and has wide range of mixture strength. Therefore, injection of small quantity of externally carbureted mixture would fire a diesel even at low ambient temperature or at low cranking speed. So this was all about the diesel knock and the design of combustion chambers for CI engines.